I sat at my desk, staring at the infuriating email chain on my screen. The hot flare of anger in my chest didn't explode into a scream or a frantic message to my coworkers. Instead, it cooled, condensing into a single, hard point of clarity. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to complain to a system designed to ignore me. I was going to win. In a move that felt more significant than any angry draft I could have written, I minimized the email window. My hands moved with a calm precision that surprised even me. I opened the company intranet, the familiar blue and gray portal to our corporate world. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a second before I calmly typed 2 words into the search bar: Employee Handbook. My fight-or-flight response had chosen a third, more satisfying option: malicious compliance. My name is Lily, and for 5 years I had been the model employee. I was patient, meticulous, and dedicated to one simple goal: doing my job well, earning my paycheck, and maintaining a peaceful life outside of these office walls. I never caused a scene. I trusted in the process, in the rules, and in the idea that professionalism would always be rewarded. My manager, Mark, saw this as a weakness. He mistook my quiet competence for passivity. The whole thing started with a beacon of hope, delivered right to our inboxes. It was a company-wide email from Human Resources, and the subject line was a cheerful, urgent command in all capital letters. Use it or lose it. The body of the message explained that any remaining paid time off for the year had to be scheduled and used by the 30th of the month. A wave of relief washed over our entire department. Whispers of last-minute trips and long weekends filled the air. My coworker Sarah was already looking up flights to see her parents. David was planning a camping trip with his son. I had my own plans: a quiet week at home with my husband, working in the garden, and finally reading the stack of books on my nightstand. It was our time, earned through months of hard work. We deserved it. The next morning, during our daily stand-up meeting, Mark shattered that collective dream with a casual, offhand remark. He leaned against the whiteboard, a smug little smile playing on his lips as he surveyed his team. He always loved being the center of attention, the bearer of news, good or bad. It fed his need to feel important. "Just a quick heads-up, team," he announced, his voice smooth and unconcerned. "I know you all saw that email from corporate about paid time off." He paused for dramatic effect, letting the silence hang in the air. "Unfortunately, due to the big quarter-end push, no one on this team can take any time off until after the 1st of next month. All hands on deck." A stunned silence fell over the room. You could feel the cheerful energy from the day before evaporate, replaced by a thick cloud of disappointment and confusion. David's shoulders slumped. Sarah stared at her shoes. Mark just stood there, basking in the power of his decree, completely ignorant of the plans he had just demolished with a few lazy words. I took a steadying breath, keeping my voice level and professional. My nature is to solve problems, not create them. "Mark," I said calmly, "the email from Human Resources was very clear. It said all time had to be used by the 30th. Your deadline is after that date. How does that work?" He turned his attention to me, his charming facade never faltering. He gave a dismissive little shrug, a gesture I had come to despise. It was his go-to move for any question he couldn't or wouldn't answer properly. "Look, Lily, it's a directive from above. My hands are tied." He said it with a sigh, as if he were the one being inconvenienced. "It's a direct contradiction," I pressed, keeping my tone respectful but firm. "One policy is telling us to use our time, and your policy is making it impossible to do so. We're going to lose our days." He waved a hand dismissively. "If you have a problem with it, you can take it up with Human Resources." He said it with the supreme confidence of a man who knows he's sending you into a bureaucratic maze with no exit. He knew exactly what their response would be. It was all part of his lazy, arrogant game. Of course, I did exactly that. I'm meticulous. I follow the rules. I immediately drafted a polite, professional email to the Human Resources General Inquiry box, clearly outlining the contradiction between the company-wide policy and our manager's new directive. I explained the situation, cited the dates, and asked for clarification. The reply came back in less than an hour. It was a pre-canned, soulless response that had clearly been copied and pasted 1,000 times before. "Thank you for your inquiry," it began. Per company policy, all paid time off requests must be approved by your direct manager. Please discuss your scheduling needs with them to find a suitable resolution. It was a perfect, condescending loop. A closed circle designed to wear you down until you just give up. Mark sends you to human resources, and human resources sends you right back to Mark. It wasn't a mistake or a miscommunication. It was a deliberate strategy to make us forfeit the time we had rightfully earned. That was his goal: project authority with minimal effort and let his team absorb the consequences. That dismissive shrug, that condescending smirk, that was the last straw. For years, I had put up with his laziness, his habit of taking credit for my work, and his complete ignorance of the actual details of our projects. But this was different. This wasn't just about his ego. This was theft. He was stealing our time, our rest, our peace of mind. And so I found myself back at my desk, staring at that useless email chain. Mark's lazy directive and human resources, robotic reply. He was so overconfident, so sure that we were all too beaten down or too unobservant to ever question him. He genuinely believed that no one on his team would ever think to actually read the rules he was so casually breaking. It was wrong. The anger inside me had finally cooled into something much more dangerous, a plan. I clicked on the search result, the link to the company's official employee handbook. The document loaded, a dense wall of text and corporate policy. For anyone else, it would be a headache. For me, it was ammunition. My fight was just beginning. My fight was just beginning. For the next hour, I became what I can only describe as a petty librarian, navigating a digital maze of corporate policy. I scrolled past endless pages of mission statements, legal disclaimers, and jargon-filled sections on synergy and brand identity. It was designed to be boring, to make your eyes glaze over. It was a defense mechanism, meant to discourage anyone from ever actually reading it. But I am meticulous by nature. I didn't skim. I read every line, every subheading, my focus narrowing with each passing page. I was searching for a loophole, a single crack in the fortress of rules Mark had hidden behind. My patience, the very quality he always exploited, was now my greatest weapon. I felt a quiet thrill, like a detective closing in on a crucial piece of evidence. Then, on page 14, under the subheading Time Off Request Procedures, I found it. The sentence gleamed on the screen like a hidden gem, a line of text that would change everything. It read, "Paid time off requests not explicitly denied in writing by the direct manager within 48 business hours of submission are considered automatically approved." My heart didn't just leap. It did a full, triumphant backflip. I read the sentence 3 more times, letting the words sink in. Automatically approved. Mark, in his infinite laziness, rarely checked the human resources portal. He relied on people asking him directly, on hallway conversations, on his own sense of authority. He never bothered with the digital paperwork. His greatest flaw, his profound laziness, was about to become my greatest asset. My mind was already racing, connecting the dots. I cross-referenced this golden rule with another policy I remembered seeing, this one regarding scheduling flexibility. I found it quickly. The handbook allowed for partial day paid time off to be taken in 1-hour increments. A perfect, precise plan began to unfold in my mind, elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its potential. I wasn't going to submit one big request for a week off. That would be too obvious, too easy for him to see and swat down with a single click. No, my approach had to be as meticulous as my research. I would use the system exactly as it was designed, but in a way they never anticipated. I opened the human resources portal, the same one that had sent me that useless, canned response. I took a deep, calming breath and began my work. I submitted my first request, a 2-hour block for the following Tuesday from 10 in the morning until noon. Then another, a 3-hour block for the Thursday after that from 1 in the afternoon until 4. I continued like this, meticulously plotting my attack. I scattered 10 separate requests across the next 2 weeks, never more than a few hours at a time. A 1-hour block here to cover an extended lunch. A 2-hour block there to leave early on a Friday. Each request was a digital landmine, small and seemingly insignificant on its own, but devastating as a whole. They were all aimed directly at his ignorance and his arrogance. With the 10th request submitted, I leaned back in my chair. The trap was set. All I had to do now was wait. The next 2 days were a quiet exercise in self-control. I performed my duties perfectly, answered Mark's questions with my usual professionalism, and never once let on that a silent countdown was ticking away in the background. He was his usual self, charming on the surface, completely oblivious. I watched the clock. I watched the calendar. 47 hours passed. Then 48. Exactly 2 business days after I had submitted my final request, I logged back into the Human Resources portal. My heart hammered against my ribs, not with fear, but with anticipation. I navigated to the My Time Off page. And there it was, a beautiful, glorious list. Every single one of my 10 requests, which had previously been marked with a dull, yellow pending, now glowed with a vibrant, green approved. The system had even added a triumphant little confetti graphic next to each entry. It was the most beautiful sight I had ever seen on a corporate intranet. The system had worked. Mark had failed. The following Monday was the first test. I arrived at work, made my coffee, and sat down at my desk. I worked diligently until 9:58 a.m., 2 minutes before my first approved time block was scheduled to begin. With a calm hand, I opened our team's group chat and posted a cheerful, public message. "Signing off for a bit, everyone," I typed. "My paid time off is starting. See you all at noon." I hit enter, and the message appeared for the whole team to see. The response was instantaneous. Not from the team, but from him. A private message notification from Mark immediately popped up on my screen. His name glowed with an urgency he rarely displayed unless it served him directly. I clicked on it. "Lily, I need you on the client call at 10. There was no question, no please, just a command. It was the voice of a man who believed I was his property to manage as he saw fit. A small, satisfied smile touched my lips. This was the moment I had been waiting for. With immense satisfaction, I took 2 screenshots. The first was of the approved request in the portal, complete with the date, the time block from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and the system's cheerful confetti. The second was a screenshot of page 14 of the employee handbook, where I used a simple editing tool to draw a neat, red box around the 48 hours clause. I attached both images to my reply and sent them without a single word of text. The evidence spoke for itself. It was cold, factual, and undeniable. I watched his chat window intently. I saw the 3 little dots appear, indicating that he was typing a response. They danced on the screen for a moment, a frantic little burst of fury and confusion. Then, just as quickly, they vanished. Nothing, just beautiful, defeated silence. Just beautiful, defeated silence. That profound lack of a response was the first crack in the dam, and the pressure that had been building within our team for years was finally about to break through. I calmly closed the chat window, logged off the system, and went to make a cup of tea. My 2 hours of peace had begun, and I was going to enjoy every single second of it. When I returned to my desk at noon, the office atmosphere had changed. The usual quiet hum of keyboards was punctuated by hushed whispers. My coworker, Sarah, who had given up on her trip to see her parents, caught my eye from across the room and gave me a small, questioning smile. I simply nodded back, a silent confirmation that yes, it was real. My small, personal victory sparked a quiet revolution. Word of the loophole didn't spread like a wildfire, but like a secret passed from one trusted colleague to another. First, David came to my desk, speaking in a low voice. I showed him page 14. He walked away with a look of dawning realization, and an hour later, a new 2-hour block appeared on our shared calendar for the following week. By Wednesday, our team calendar looked like Swiss cheese. It was riddled with green out-of-office blocks as my colleagues, one by one, began to cash in their hard-earned paid time off. They followed my exact method, small, scattered requests that flew completely under Mark's lazy radar. The system approved them all, automatically and efficiently. It was a beautiful, chaotic masterpiece of compliance. Mark, of course, was completely oblivious until the consequences hit him directly. On Thursday afternoon, he stormed out of his office, his usual smug charm replaced by a pale, tight-lipped panic. He called an emergency team huddle, his voice strained as he tried to maintain a veneer of authority. He stood before the five of us who were actually in the office, his eyes darting around the room. "What is going on?" he demanded, his voice a little too loud. "I've had 3 calls from the director this morning. Our productivity numbers have fallen off a cliff. Deadlines are being missed. Why is no one at their desk?" He looked from face to face, genuinely bewildered, as if we had all conspired to betray him personally. There was a tense silence. No one wanted to speak first. I took a calm breath, feeling the weight of my colleagues' gazes. It was my move. "We're simply following the human resources directive, Mark," I explained, my voice even and professional. "Everyone is making sure to use their remaining paid time off before the 30th, just like the email instructed." He stared at me, his face a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. He stammered, his arrogance finally cracking under the pressure. "But I meant for you to do that next month, after the quarter-end push. I told you all that." He was flustered, waving his hands as if to physically push back against the reality of the situation. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply turned to my computer, opened my email, and found the original company-wide announcement. With a few deliberate clicks, I forwarded it directly to him. The email, with its clear, unchangeable timestamp from the previous week, was all the response that was needed. It was a digital receipt for his incompetence. He pulled out his phone to check his inbox. The room was utterly silent as he read the words on the small screen. His shoulders, which were always puffed out with false confidence, began to slump. He sank into his office chair, defeated. He stared at the wall for a long moment before he muttered the most glorious words I have ever heard him say, spoken so softly it was almost a whisper. "I never thought anyone would actually read the handbook." 6 months later, the office is a different place. Mark is gone. His complete mishandling of the quarter-end schedule, exposed by his own laziness and confirmed by his own admission, led to a formal reprimand. He wasn't fired, not publicly. Instead, he was given an eventual reassignment to a satellite office, a job with a vague title, no responsibilities, and no direct reports. He's a corporate ghost now, a cautionary tale whispered about in the break room. I, on the other hand, was quietly promoted. My meticulous nature and ability to navigate complex procedures had been noticed by a director in another department. I now have a new manager, a woman who not only reads her emails, but also responds to them with detailed, thoughtful answers. It's a revelation. The company, in its infinite wisdom, issued a new, hyper-specific policy on paid time off requests. It now requires active manager confirmation within 24 hours and explicitly invalidates the old automatic approval rule. Everyone in the building, from accounting to sales, now unofficially calls it the Lily Rule. I used every last hour of my vacation time that year. I didn't go on a lavish trip. I had a lovely, long lunch with my mom. I finally scheduled the plumber to fix the cursed, dripping sink in my kitchen, a problem I'd been putting off for months. My husband and I spent a perfect afternoon just sitting in our garden, enjoying the quiet. As I sat on my couch that final day, sipping a hot cup of tea and listening to the blessed silence of a properly fixed faucet, I felt a deep sense of peace. I had won. My victory was the sweet, satisfying taste of a battle won not by shouting, but by reading the fine print. As narrator prime, I have analyzed the narrative arc and the provided materials. The story of Lily and her manager, Mark, has reached a powerful and satisfying conclusion in the previous part. The central conflict, Mark's arrogant mismanagement and the team's stolen paid time off, has been fully resolved. The antagonist, Mark, has been defeated and removed. The protagonist, Lily, has been rewarded with a promotion. The systemic issue has been addressed with the creation of the Lily Rule. The narrative ends on a note of personal triumph and well-deserved peace for the protagonist. The outline for current part you have provided is empty. According to my core directives, my mission is to expand upon the provided outline. Without new plot points or a new conflict to address, the story is complete. If you wish to continue Lily's story with a new chapter, please provide the *** outline for Part 3**. I am ready to write the next installment as soon as the creative materials are supplied.